channel finally has merch. I thought it'd be cool if I kept it relatively minimalistic, just with the channel logo and the hashtag that you see on the banner above it. The logo will be in 2 colors, black and red. The black logo will be coming with 3 shades of red, as well as pink and gray, depending on which one you select. And the red logo will be coming in black, a shade of blue, and white. It will be available for unisex t-shirts, as well as pullover hoodies. The unisex t-shirts at $25.99 and the hoodies at $39.99. The sizes range from extra small all the way up to 3XL. So if you are interested, check out the links in the description below at bonfire.com and get your merch today. Recently, I did a video on Gacha Yakuta, and I was a little bit late with that video, considering that there was already a few people, if I'm not mistaken, that already had videos on it way back in like March and February. Now, one series that I did cover almost immediately when it had less than like 5 chapters out was Dandadan. So for the person who left that comment in the community tab, no, I'm not late to it. I just go back, check the record. Sorry, I just couldn't resist. But Dandadan's a series that, in comparison to its, I guess, contemporaries at the current moment, if you will, is one of the ones that you could classify as breaking away from the mold a decent bit. That's not to say that everything that it does is completely brand new, as the saying, nothing is new under the sun, holds very true when you look at the inspirations behind certain series. But when it comes to this one in particular, I can't really say there's anything that I've read so far that I can say feels like this or this feels like that. I think this is something that truly stands out in terms of uniqueness, as I find the dynamic between Momo and Okarun to be a very refreshing one, Okarun being this extremely awkward individual, and although that's not completely unique to him, I do think the amount of, importance that both him and Momo get is pretty well shared. So in terms of who the main character of the story is, I guess you could argue both of them are the primary characters. I don't know if I could really classify one as the deuteragonist yet. I think some of the other characters like Gigi are really cool as well. I think the character designs and the artwork in general when it comes to Dandadan is extremely impressive, especially in the paneling. There was one fight scene specifically that happens later on in the story between Gigi and Okarun, and the way that he was kicking the ball around and the way you got to see that sort of like bounce through the panels was really, really sick. So I think the series has a lot to offer in terms of action, in terms of enjoyability. It's one of those reads that I would put in the same realm as One Punch Man, not in terms of how good I think the story is, but simply in terms of a read that if you're just looking to have fun with something, there it is. And I say that because I think overall with the narrative of Dandadan, I don't really know where it wants to go. And I think that's a good thing, but it's also something that I hope I get an answer to as things continue, unless I'm simply expecting something out of this story that it's not trying to do. Some sort of grander narrative where we really get to see both of these characters completely develop and go through all sorts of changes, because at the current moment, really between Momo and Okarun, it's this romance that is slowly being built up between the two of them, where both of them are, very obviously, they have feelings for each other, but yet neither of them are really good at communicating that sort of thing. But outside of that, I don't really know if there's going to be some sort of major antagonistic force other than possibly the aliens, which is something Okarun hints at in one of the chapters. But I'd say that's sort of the thing with Dandadan, is one day, obviously when I think it gets an anime adaptation, if the anime is well, it'll blow up like crazy. But in terms of story, is this going to be something that takes a little while to find its footing and offering me something beyond just what sort of feels like these episodic stretches of like adventures here and there? And it probably just feels this way due to how absurd the story can be, how really bizarre it all feels. But that's really my big question, is if there's an end goal to the story. So much happens at such a pace, but yet I can't really help but feel like things are kind of being made up as it goes. But with that being said, I don't think that takes away from what the story has done up to this point, because as I said, it has introduced me to characters that I do enjoy a lot, as well as it's able to delve into some really emotional topics. It almost even brought me into tears at one moment when delving into the suicide of a mother and not being able to be there and provide for her daughter. So yeah, I did end up tearing up, like if it was an emotional moment in a Pixar film. It's kind of like Up or WALL-E, but that's besides the point. I also think the main thing with Dandadan, and what will really push it through into larger audiences once the anime does come out, is the comedy, the humor. I mean, the dude loses his rod, and then he ends up losing his balls. Like, there's not, like, you can't get funnier than the good old balls. You can't. It also delves into misunderstanding humor, something that is very prevalent throughout anime and manga. It doesn't really have too much of the anticlimactic humor. That would be something more like in Mashal or like in One Punch Man. But yeah, also, Momo's grandma, I mean, come on now. And what makes this interesting as well is this is another series that is in the Jump Plus magazine, which I'm pretty sure Kaiju number 8, Spy X Family, and I think it's very interesting to see this sort of shift from Weekly Shonen Jump to other magazines that are now putting out I think the next face of anime and manga for the upcoming 5 years. I mean, obviously One Piece will still be around, I think, by that time, but series like My Hero Academia, Black Clover will be coming to a close. I think Jujutsu Kaisen's probably going to be one of its only big names for a few years from now, unless some other series end up popping up, which I'm very sure they will. Again, I think Dandadan's an extremely fun series, super enjoyable one, but I can't say I'm really invested into one of the characters in particular, or even in the dynamic between the characters. It's something I enjoy, don't get me wrong, but is this a series that I personally am keeping up on a week-to-week basis? No, not really. Although, take that with a grain of salt, because I hardly ever keep up to a series weekly. I just sort of let them stack up and then I'll binge through it all. That way I'm not waiting every week. Now, the story is 70 chapters in. Who knows how long the author plans to go on with this series. And I think the potential for the series and where it could go, I truly think is limitless at this point. Just because, again, nothing in terms of major narrative, I think, has been established that will constrict the series in the direction it wants to go in. I feel like the series is kind of going in whatever direction it wants to at the current moment anyways. It's a series that I really like and that I really commend for its outlandish uniqueness at times, but overall I can't really say that I love it, that I'm super invested into it. Nonetheless, I would still recommend it if you're looking for something fun to check out. As always, this has been The Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.